I can answer the question, Judge. You can't handle the truth!
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else gets the hose again.
Welcome to After Hours AM, The Criminal Code, with your hosts, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olsen, and Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I do sound a little under the weather because allergy season has hit me fast and furious, and because of that, and I cannot give you guys the kind of show that I know you guys all deserve, Mr. Eric Olsen, he's graciously agreed to kind of take the reins here tonight. And so without any further ado, welcome to After Hours AM. I am the co-host tonight, Joel Sturgis, and with our host,
Eric Olsen. Indeed, it's After Hours AM, the Criminal Code, and it's the Criminal Code because a fine young woman joins us. And who is that?
Dr. Clarissa Cole, hello.
Ooh, I like that. That was kind of forceful.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, wow. Cough button.
Hello.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Cole, in your sultry voice.
Different intonation.
Coming in going, who done it?
Yep.
It wasn't me, I can tell you that much.
A testament to the seriousness of the crime. It was the perfect.
If they could hear us off air, Eric, they would never use seriousness in the same sentence as us. If they heard
Seriosity?
Yes, they would never use that.
It's true. Yeah, it is true.
Perhaps not.
The rest of my life is too serious. I can't bring it everywhere else with me.
That's
true.
True
Crime and silliness.
Hand in hand. Peanut butter and jelly.
So
you gotta have a sense of humor.
How have your weeks been? We know that Joel is limited to 2 to 3 words at a time.
And sign language. Don't forget sign language. I'm becoming very proficient at that, but it doesn't work for radio.
So give us a brief statement, Joel.
I have horrible, horrible allergies, but I'm doing great. I am now labeled as a medical mystery, by the way. Went to the doctor the other day, and everyone's well aware of my heart thing that I had going on, and thank you all again for all your prayers, and you're still checking up on me, but they do not know why what happened. But they will not admit fault, of course, because I asked them, hey, just admit you guys are wrong, and we can go on our merry way. They will not do that, by the way. They'll never admit fault.
Well, is it fault, or, I mean, what are they saying? So what would fault mean? Meaning they misread?
Yeah, because then I could turn around and say, wait a minute, you made me go through unnecessary surgeries? What?
Right.
Because you're malpractice? What? And that's exactly why they'll never say, generally speaking, we were wrong.
And to be specific, them saying that they were wrong would mean they misread the tests?
Exactly,
Is that
yeah.
the essence of it?
Yeah, and that would open them up to potentially, and I would never do this because, quite honestly, I'm just happy to be here, to be honest. But I would never bring litigation forth, but others have, actually, in the past.
Well, weren't there multiple images, though, and didn't more than one doctor look at the image?
3 doctors saw it. And 3 doctors gave the green light to have the procedure. They got in there, and there's nothing there. And I really attest that to prayer. And, I mean, just positive thinking and people, thinking about me and really sending me goodwill. And so that's what I really attest it to. And so if that's, either that or I'm Wolverine and I can heal from anything. One of the two is going on. I haven't decided.
Ooh, I'm voting number 2.
It is some serious, strange, and interesting things. I would think they would want to make a test case out of you or some sort of medical anomaly. Now, Clarissa, we know you're not a medical doctor, but you are tangential to the medical field. What are your thoughts on this? Have you ever heard of anything like it? Joel's case?
No, but I do hear of tests being misread or like once things, there is kind of this confirmation bias that happens. And that's what we call it. Like, so for instance, if you're looking at a test results, like even in my field, you shouldn't actually be asking the prior doctor what they're seeing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you should try to go into it blind. So if I have a colleague that says, I want you to, we do our own testing. If I have a colleague that comes to me and says, I want you to look at these test results and tell me what you see, that's the way to do it. That's how you should do it. The other doctor should come in blind. You shouldn't go into it, for instance, going, oh my God, I see a 70% blockage. What do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
That might bias the situation a tad.
And that's exactly what they had done.
That happens all the time, though. I see it all the time where they come in with their interpretation attached, saying, oh, this is what I see. So you're getting that sort of social pull, if nothing else, to say that you see it too. And so, like, I've had colleagues come to me and start to tell me, what their interpretation is. And I go, whoa. No, I don't want to know. I just want to see the results and see how I interpret them. Then we'll come together.
Mm-hmm. Well, now they keep ordering tests for me, like now the echocardiogram to go through again, because they're so confused of why they're wrong. I'm assuming because they don't want to admit they're wrong, but they're just going to keep testing me until they go, that's why I gave off the reading. Guaranteeing it. That's what's going on.
I hope they come back with the big word idiopathic. That's my favorite.
What does that mean?
Idiopathic means we have no idea.
Or I thought maybe it meant that they're idiots.
No, it means like let's say you have high blood pressure.
I do.
But they don't know why, and they can't tell you why. So then they'll say high blood pressure of an idiopathic.
Hey, actually, they said that to me. They said, we don't know why you have high blood pressure. It's idiopathic. So, that's what that means. Okay, gotcha.
A fancy word for we have not figured it out. Thank you.
They just said probably genetics. Next.
That is so interesting. I'm on the opposite end of it. I actually have pretty low blood pressure. Mm-hmm. And, at my age now, I have to have the fairly serious physical each year. I've had 2 now. And after resisting a bit, but, you can't fight City Hall. So, of course, they're checking that, and they're asking me about all the things that I take. And I do take a lot of stuff, especially supplements. But what I took for over 20 years, I took 4 Sudafed every single morning for over 20 years. And when I started discussing this with the doctors, they said, oh, my God, your blood pressure should be through the roof when taking that. I said, well, I'm sure part of it is my body is used to it because I've been doing it for so long. And they said, well, still, there's some issues, certainly potential issues. Also, we're concerned that you may basically be addicted to that level of Sudafed. And at some point, even if it isn't an issue with your blood pressure or apparently anything else, seemingly anything else at the moment, in the future, it could well be, and it could be difficult for you to come off it. So anyway, I have worked my way down first to 3 Sudafed in the morning. I did that for a few months. Now I'm down to 2, and my body is still definitely adjusting. My blood pressure went down a little bit as a result of all this, not much, but it was already pretty low. So that's just, I think a lot of it is just genetics. And that seems to be an area that is more influenced by genetics than perhaps lots of other areas, because I haven't done much one way or the other. I do keep my weight pretty steady. I've been approximately, certainly within 10%. 5% of the same weight for decades. So I'm sure that's a positive. But again, that's genetics too, because it's not like I have to try that hard. So, in some ways I'm lucky. In other ways, hey, I always wanted to be a really big, strong guy and play football, and I'm way too skinny for that.
Well, now, how many Sudafed are you supposed to be taking in a 24-hour period?
Well, you're allowed to take 1 every 4 hours or 6 hours, I forget which, with a maximum of 4. So I just kind of worked my way up to 4. And the other thing that's weird is I've always taken mine all together, and you are supposed to space them out. You're not supposed to take them all together. You're supposed to take one, and then X hours later take another.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
That's crazy. I've never heard of anybody taking 4 at
once. Me neither. I thought that'd kill you.
I'd be bouncing off the wall. My heart would be beating out of my chest with that much.
Dang.
Well, I did work my way up to it, and obviously I have some sort of, predisposition that it doesn't bother me that much. But listen to this. This is interesting. I, through, not really on purpose, it was kind of accidental, and I just didn't have access. Excuse me. And so I went from, this was prior to my purposefully moving it down. I went from 4 to only 2, and it wasn't even 24 hours. It was more like 36 hours. So I only had 2 in about 36 hours. And then I finally was able to get more and took them. But when I went back,
your dealer
took naturally the drugstore. So Walmart. So, but when I went back after just that very brief period, again, it wasn't that I didn't take any. It's just that I only had 2 in about 36 hours. That next day, the next morning, when I went back to 4, wow, I really could feel it. So obviously I had developed some sort of tolerance, but it only took 36 hours for that tolerance to be impacted. So it's interesting, and I'm wondering if it's a combination of things. I'm certain that age has something to do with it. There's some other areas where my body chemistry is clearly changing. For example, alcohol. Oh my God, it just keeps going down. My tolerance just goes down and down.
It's the devil's juice, man. It's the devil's juice.
I am telling you, last weekend, I don't remember which day, but either Friday night or Saturday night, it was Friday night. I had a grand total of 2 beers. Now, they were high alcohol IPAs, but 2 beers nonetheless. I had a hangover. Not bad, but noticeable the next morning. That has never happened to me before. Wow. 2 beers hungover the next morning.
I haven't drank in 5 years. Not because I gave it up because I had a problem. I just don't drink. I just don't have time. We should make some time. Let's start boozing it up.
Well, all of that makes sense. I mean, if you start drinking less and less, or, and as you get older, your tolerance goes down. But ephedra, ephedrine is pseudoephedrine, is an excitatory drug. It's a stimulant. So it only lasts for 4 hours. And if that, it's a very quick drug. So the half-life is really short. So even if you had 2 pills in 36 hours, the half-life of that drug, meaning how long it's in your system, it's already gone, like gone.
Right.
By the time that 36 hours is up. So when you take it again, I'm not surprised.
Huh.
It was like I'd never had it before. It was like, whoa, I really felt it, which I don't normally do. Just what you guys were saying, my heart was pounding. I felt twitchy. It was not pleasant at all. So that made it a lot easier to, it was right then that I then scaled down to the 3 a day. And did that for a while, and now I'm down to 2. And I'm still kind of adjusting on the allergy front, because, of course, it's that time of year now. And, it definitely, I feel it wearing off earlier in the day and start to get congested into the evening. And so, because I then take nighttime pills, which are, antihistamines, so they're at least mild depressants. I take the yellow pills, the chlor, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I take a Claritin, which supposedly doesn't make you tired or sped up. It's kind of neutral. So, but I can't take that until I'm basically going to bed, because it does make me a little bit tired. And I, don't want that until it's time to go to bed. So I'm having to adjust is the point of all this. And I'm telling you, it's weird. The body chemistry really changes. And of course, it changes gradually over time, your entire life. This isn't anything that's brand new, but it's the severity and the speed that has changed. It's like, boom, all of a sudden, some things really seem different with my body chemistry. So I got to pay attention to it. You can't, hubris will kill you. I can't just keep doing the same things at my age that I did when I was 25 or 35 or 45 for that matter. So we will see. I think I've readjusted, but we will see. All right. Well, moving right along, are we ready to get into the true crime headlines, or do we have anything else that we would like to address? I'm always interested, and I know we've talked about it from time to time, but I'd love to hear Clarissa's thoughts kind of once again. Maybe it's definitely recapitulating, but we haven't talked about it for a little while. What are your thoughts on this just incredible resurgence. I don't know if it's a resurgence. I guess it is, because it does seem to go in cycles, with the fascination with true crime. You got whole TV channels now devoted to it. You got podcasts galore. You have books, every kind of media outlet, including those that are considered, really contemporary. What's going on right now? What's new? Podcasts. Well, the most famous, every single one of them, are some form of true crime. Why do you think we've cycled back around to that, Clarissa?
I know a lot of it has to do with society in general and the politics of the time. It was very, I hate to even say this, but when people are more under stress in general, when you're going through sort of a weird political system where the classes are very separate, and can continue to be more striated, like the Victorian era is a very good example of that. And the Victorians were, obsessed with crime is like the the understatement of the century.
Jack the Ripper, that's why.
Absolutely obsessed with crime. And I think that crime is one of those, and if you notice too, like people are very obsessed with crime that strikes, celebrity and celebrity culture and things like that. It's the great equalizer,
Sure.
And when things are maybe not the best in your life, I think that maybe there's something kind of comforting about watching these crime stories, and like things could be so much worse. That's just one sort of example of it. But I think another example is I think we're kind of starting to wake up as a culture too, to not just class differences, but gender differences and ethnic stereotypes. And I think that all plays into it too. So and we spent a good deal of time sort of in this fantastical realm, of ghosts and the paranormal, which is awesome. Love that stuff. But if you notice too, that when that went through a big boom, America was doing a lot better.
That's true.
Socially, politically, pretty much on every level, America was doing a lot better. And I think that when people are generally happy with their lives, or things are looking up, or it looks like there's a lot of potential for the future, we tend to focus on things that are a bit more esoteric, spiritual things. We can get to the higher plane when you're not thinking about what you're going to eat.
Yeah, true.
Right. At your next meal, so it's like you can think about stuff like that. But when the worries start to creep in about like where is rent going to come from, I think we start to focus on sort of that gritty side, because we're all thinking about it, I guess.
I wonder if the horrors of that time, but I wonder if even something like 9/11 actually had a positive impact as far as culturally, because you had the nation pulling together. Everyone was afraid. Everyone was concerned. No one knew what was going on. And it gave us such a, obvious other that we could turn our attention to and not bicker among ourselves. And I think some of that coming together, that cultural unification, that perhaps contributed to the paranormal boom, because we, think about it. The TV show started just a few years after 9/11 and continued apace and were really, really popular for about 10 years, at least 10 years.
I have a theory on that, is wars have a tendency to bring out the paranormal. Civil War, Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, Korea War, Vietnam, those all accompanied spikes in the paranormal, interest in the paranormal. Mainly because, people want to talk to their loved ones. They're curious of what's in the hereafter. And that was no different when we invaded Iraq. Here we are in another war. And what happened right after the war happened within months? Ghost hunters hit there.
Right. Yep. Good. Very good point.
Iran.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Cole, but Iran to the end of the war.
I think it's an important point that you guys have brought up about 9/11 sort of bringing out, that quality. But there is a very marked difference here, because I moved to the city that I'm in now is primarily Indian, primarily Sikh, right? They are not the same people that are responsible for 9/11, right? But America as a whole viewed them that way.
Well, sure.
So,
yeah.
But the reason being that the rest of America it took us a really long time to start turning toward true crime. We were all looking more toward the spiritual after 9/11, and that's what's interesting. The exact opposite happened for the Muslim Americans. The exact opposite. There's articles written about it where they're talking about their culture, right, is about Bollywood and about beautiful thing, yoga and coming together and music and food and all this amazing stuff. And after 9/11, their culture became more about true crime.
Interesting.
Because it was happening to them.
Yeah.
They were becoming victims of hate crime. So there was this big spike in sort of true crime fascination in the Muslim culture after 9/11. But not with anyone else.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Like how your culture is treated, how you perceive yourself as being treated, I think is a big push probably toward that like really grisly side of culture. So I was just looking at an article, I just brought one up just now, talking about September 11th marked a turning point for Muslims in America on NPR. And that's what they were talking about. So, I think that I hate to say it, but when as a culture, the whole culture at large, it becomes more interested in true crime. I hate to say it, but that kind of means your country's not doing so good.
That is true. That is true. And true crime is the worst of humanity, generally speaking. And so, that seems to really resonate.
Yeah, it hits home because people now think it really could happen to them. Whereas when you're doing well, you're like, yeah, we can go ghost hunting because nothing bad's going to happen to, like really bad is going to happen to us. And when you're really actually concerned about your physical well-being from other people, you start to focus on that more. But,
hey, it's only 22 minutes late, but we should mention that coming up in the second hour, Dr. Cole is going to lead us through an absolute classic true crime case from the 30s. It's the notorious Los Angeles trunk murders.
Dun, dun, dun.
Winnie Ruth Judd.
Do you have junk in your trunk? Stay tuned.
Well, before we get to that, I have got some true crime stories that I'm like, what is going on?
Let's do so. Let's jump into that.
Yeah, you remember last week when I talked about, and I still don't know what movie it was, but the two people that wanted to reenact a scene from a movie, and they used a real gun.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Apparently, a drama student recently allegedly stabbed two classmates while acting out a scene from The Butterfly Effect.
Oh.
Oh,
Man,
no.
I don't know what I feel worse about, the fact he reenacted a scene from a horrible movie or that someone got stabbed. I'm not sure. I'm conflicted.
I know. I'm like, The Butterfly Effect. Wait, you call yourself a drama? Okay, first of all, I was a drama student, and you call yourself a drama student, and you're reenacting an Ashton Kutcher movie? Let's stop there.
I know drama students, and you, sir, are no drama student.
Ashton Kutcher movie.
Yeah, serious miscasting from hell movie. But anyway, and I'm sorry, Amy Smart wasn't that good in that either. Write me hate mail later. So the suspect was acting out a scene from the movie in which the person or persons get stabbed, at which point he began to stab both victims before fleeing on foot. And this was in Hartford, Connecticut, I guess.
Wow, that's just too bad right there. That guy, his mugshot looks pretty rough. He looks rough.
Yeah, he looks like he suffered some injuries too. I'm hoping they fought back valiantly. There was a 19-year-old victim who suffered wounds to his chest and back, and the other victim was a 21-year-old student from New Fairfield who was stabbed in the chest and 4 times in the back. There was a witness, and this was in a dorm, by the way.
Damn.
Why did the person keep stabbing?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
He stayed in character.
I don't know why they started. It's extremely odd to me. I have no. Oh no, I don't know.
Very method.
Yeah, clearly something was very, very wrong with this person. I mean, this has nothing to do with drama or acting. This is.
Excuse me.
This is obviously a very troubled individual. He later told police during a video interview that he was, quote, into his character and, quote, my emotions got the best of me and I acted a little too hard. Yeah, you can just act hard in prison too, okay? Because I don't want you on screen or on stage or anywhere where there are other living people that I might care about. So, yeah, I really, I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for this guy.
Living people. Well, I mean, did he think it was was there any excuse? Did he think it was a stage knife, a fake knife, or what?
No, I think they knew.
Oh.
He fled on foot, so he knew it was real knife.
So they went after practical effects. Gotcha.
Well, and actually, to be clear, we've often used real weapons in stage plays. Like in Shakespeare, we use real broadswords. In other like farces that I've been in, we have used real knives. I mean, it's not uncommon, especially when it's a small theater, like a black box theater. You can't use like a rubber knife. Everybody can tell, you know. So it's often that there are real weapons up on stage, but
wow,
you don't
like
you don't stab people
revolvers.
with.
Revolvers of blanks and stuff. You're talking like
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I've been in theaters where they have shot blanks before. I mean, generally you try not to aim actually at the person. You try to aim into the wings, and the wings is cordoned off so no one's in there. But yeah, I've been on stage where people have shot bow and arrow, where crossbows have been fired, where blanks have been fired, and where broadsword fights happened. I told you before that I got stabbed accidentally, and I saw a broadsword cut someone accidentally. So it does happen, for sure. But not 4 times in the back. That's a little, a lot different.
Well, once it's more than once,
Yeah.
you can't possibly claim that it's a mistake or you didn't know, or, I mean, once is enough, don't you think?
Oh God, yeah, and the accidents that I'm referring to, the broadsword, and when I got stabbed with a knife, I mean, they knew right away that something horrible happened, and the actors that were responsible for doing these things, I mean, I'm sure the audience could read it too. The abject panic and terror on their faces was pretty palpable. But you know the difference between putting a knife between someone's arm and chest and putting a knife into someone's arm. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
So they at least pull the knife out of you and say, "Are bad."
He did pull the knife out right away, which in retrospect probably wasn't the best idea. But yeah, he was in terror. He looked like he was going to sob and freak out, and it wasn't that. Honestly, it really wasn't that bad. It was not a bad wound, but yeah, I could see the look on his face. Yeah,
how many people can say they've been stabbed? Come on. You know,
it really was minor. It wasn't that big of a deal. It bled a lot, but it wasn't like a major wound. It was fine. But he was freaked out, and the broadsword incident was actually at the end of Hamlet, which is pretty ironic because that's what happens, right? Is that he just slashes him across the arm with the tip of a poisoned sword. He's supposed to do that, and the actor's costume basically had like some Velcro, so the shirt would come apart. But he actually did slash the guy.
Damn.
Across the arm. Yeah, and he was mortified. You could tell he was just terrified that he did that.
Those drama geeks, they really take it to another level, don't they?
Oh. Yeah, hey, those broadswords are heavy. When you're wielding one, it's hard not to hit somebody.
Hey, mad props to drama, man. When I was going to high school, some of those people, they knew their craft. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it can get a little scary. So that's why. But stabbing multiple times to defenseless people, there's no excuse for it. And
sure,
clearly this man, Jake Washer is his name, is going to go to prison for a long time. So I just wanted to say that as like a public service announcement. Would you people stop acting out dramatic scenes from movies and taking them too far? Let's stop.
Yeah.
Anything involving weapons.
Yeah. Just pick a different show. My God, pick Macbeth or something. You don't actually
or the Little Bighorn. Do the Little Bighorn reenactment.
Oh no.
Bows and arrows.
Good Lord. No, and actually, funny story about that, the bow and arrow incident. This was an actor that had trouble literally hitting the bale of hay that was off stage in the wings, I swear to God, which was, 8 feet away? It was not that far. And then on the night that the show premiered, he actually hit the lighting tree pole, and the arrow bounced back on stage.
Well, you might
It
want
was the best moment ever.
You might want to pick not only an actor that can act, but one that might have some type of accuracy with his aim.
William Tell, he was not.
No, there's no apples being shot that night off of heads.
It was a really funny moment, though. It was a big dong, and then this arrow popped back. Oh, God. And then no one knew what to do. You know, like, do we all wing it now? It was.
Forsooth, the arrow hath rebounded.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So on to our next story. There's a person named Joe Exotic.
Love the name.
Yeah, I do too. Do you like the mullet as well?
Oh, I do. You know what? It's been a long time since I saw a righteous mullet, but now I'm looking at one.
And it's a righteously dyed mullet with
bleach.
It is.
It is.
You don't see them often.
Is that? I'm gonna just say it. Is that like a porn stash
Oh,
going on there?
Are you kidding me? He's offering mustache rides, 10 cents a piece. Come on.
That thing is ridiculous, and he's got neck tattoos and earrings, just so you can get the whole visual.
That guy, I guarantee, has a shirt in his closet saying exactly mustache rides. I'm telling you, every guy with a mullet owned one.
And he's okay. So he is apparently Joe Exotic. He's an Oklahoma zookeeper. First of all, I don't even know what animals they'd keep in Oklahoma. I feel bad for all of them.
Say anyone's guess where they got animals, but yeah.
Yeah. Oklahoma zookeeper who ran for governor has been convicted in a murder for hire plot.
Oh, who did he hire to murder?
Well, it sounds like he was trying to arrange the murder of a Florida sanctuary founder who'd criticized his treatment of animals.
I thought you say criticize his mullet, and that was the breaking point.
No, I think he's proud of it. I can sort of tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his name is Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage.
Maldonado.
Why not, right? Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage, 56,
John
commonly known as Joe Exotic. Yes. He was convicted of killing 5 tigers in October 2017, as well as selling and offering to sell tiger cubs between November 2016 and March 2018.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, so
animal husbandry. That is not.
So when a Florida sanctuary founder criticized his treatment of animals, let me just add to that, Joe. You suck at taking care of animals. Absolutely,
you should
suck.
never take care of animals, Joe. Mullet
Never.
or not mullet.
You shouldn't be around like a house cat. Okay.
You may resemble vaguely Mowgli, but does not mean that you should be around them.
Oh my God! So prosecutors said Maldonado Passage offered, get this, an undercover FBI agent $10,000 in 2017 to kill Carol Baskin, a woman, the founder and CEO of the Big Cat Rescue Sanctuary. Yeah, she doesn't have a right to criticize you. So the meeting was recorded and played for the jury last week. In the recording, Maldonado Passage told the agent, just follow her into a mall parking lot and just cap her and drive off.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just do it himself then?
I mean, he kills tigers himself.
Well,
I don't really see
why
not. I think
time?
Yeah, Carol doesn't exactly sound like a worthy adversary after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Baskin said she was grateful that justice was served and hopefully he'll serve time in prison. Yeah, I hope so too. And no longer present a threat either to me or his former big cat.
Damn. Well, hopefully justice is served. And so is kitty litter. But yes. Yeah.
Unbelievable. He's known for his blonde.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that last paragraph of the story.
He's known for his blonde mullet. And his sultry eyes.
Yeah, he looks a little confused there. But, you know, the thing about, I am making fun of it because, I mean, my God, how couldn't you? And obviously murder for hire is serious. But another thing that really bothers me is that people that mistreat animals, like any animals, they rarely see time. The reason he's seeing time is because of the murder for hire plot, not because he killed 4 tigers. Really?
Wow.
He got nothing for that. Nothing.
Man,
and yet, you know, it really bothers me that in this country we really just don't care about animals.
Yeah.
Well, about animals in general.
Charlie Sheen does, though. He's got tiger blood.
Yeah, he's got tiger blood in his veins. I mean, the reason that I say that is not because I'm some crazy PETA activist advocate. It's because that I know, as a forensic psychologist who works with criminals every single day, that people that display cruelty to animals do the same toward humans.
Of course they do.
This is a perfect case of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and it's a 1-to-1 correlation. I'm telling you, people that mistreat animals often mistreat humans and violently. So I'm not making it up. This is, you know, so the fact that we don't treat abject animal, people that run animal fighting rings, things like that, and they watch animals being torn apart in front of them and do nothing about it. I guarantee you a lot of those people do the same to humans in their lives.
I was going to say, Mr. Mullet of 1986 looks like he definitely could be a little unhinged.
Just a little. I mean, like I would say that one of the things most highly correlated with animal cruelty is often spousal abuse. So, I see that all the time. Guys who are convicted and have a spousal abuse charge, most often murder, and before that, they had slaps on the wrist for hurting their animals. So,
well, the people of Oklahoma were not fooled.
They were
because
not.
he came in third in a 3-way libertarian primary.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yes.
Poor Joe Exotic. And like tonight would not be complete without talking about Florida Man.
Or poor man's Kenny G. Yes.
Yeah, he does look like Kenny G. Or like maybe do you guys remember Justin Guarini from American Idol?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't he kind of look like him too? A little?
He was the runner-up.
Kind of looks
Remember?
like, yeah.
When Kelly met Justin, remember that?
Oh my God. And you know what? That guy has a great voice, and I hate to say it, but those Dr. Pepper commercials, I love them. I love them.
Sweet little sweet.
Sweet. Love him. Oh my God. So anyway,
yes.
This guy's name is not Justin Guarini, thank goodness. His name is Tyler Sweeney, and he was stopped by police early Monday morning following a minor traffic infraction, right? But instead, he sped off and crashed into an AT&T phone box. And I'm like, there's an AT&T phone box somewhere?
Wow.
That's not on a movie set?
Damn. So one does truly exist. And he crashed into it. The only one in the wild.
Yes. In the wilds, he crashed into it. Sweeney, 22, allegedly fled the crash car. And if you see pictures of this crashed car in the phone booth, I mean, he hit that thing.
That was some damage.
Yeah.
It was some damage.
Take that, AT&T.
He fled the crash car. He ran through a wooded area and then jumped into a canal for an attempted escape.
Okay, what exactly is an AT&T phone box? Is that where you buy phones? Is that what that is? Like a phone kiosk?
No, I was thinking it was like a phone booth or something, which is amazing, and I would love to see that in the wild. But no, it was like one of those boxes where they have all their connections and such.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a little bit less exciting, but he did damage it. He literally ran through the woods, over the river, through the woods, but he did it in the opposite order. He ran through the woods first, and then he went through the river.
Oh, to grandmother's house, I'm assuming.
No, to his own home, which is where officers found him. He went home.
Genius.
Yeah, he is a genius, clearly. So while searching Sweeney's car that he fled from, mind you, officers found 4 oxycodone pills, 2 bags of marijuana, and a mason jar of marijuana, as well as a gun. A mason jar of marijuana, as well as a gun with the serial number scratched off.
Ooh, that's federal time.
Yeah.
Again, final paragraph, genius. Sweeney was arrested and charged with multiple felonies and misdemeanors. All up and down the line. And he's changing his name to Tyler Sweeney Todd.
I swear, I respect the use of the mason jar, I guess, but other than that, I don't know what this guy was thinking. You run home.
Do you know why a person might use a mason jar versus, say, for example, a plastic bag?
Smell?
Well, I know why they might. It just doesn't work. But sure, yeah, because it's supposedly sealing the odor in, right? Because you can seal a canning jar. Is that why?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, just for those of you who are uninformed about canning jars, I grew up in Wisconsin, and my mom had like the equivalent of like a root cellar where we kept all of our vegetables for the winter. And just so y'all know, to actually seal a canning jar so that you don't smell anything in it, you have to boil that canning jar in water to get the air to escape, to actually seal it tight. So this idea that you screwed on the cap and it's sealed is kind of funny.
Did anyone else catch that? Because I'm from Wisconsin, y'all. What?
Yes.
What?
I lived in Texas for a long time too, so don't blame me. But yeah,
it was southern Wisconsin.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you guys, obviously Wisconsin and Minnesota are far north of Ohio. But do you realize that southern Ohio, which is clearly above the Mason-Dixon line, you might, if you're in Cincinnati, it's the northernmost southern city. I mean, lots of people there have heavy southern accents.
Huh. I did not know that.
No, and they start saying y'all like in
Y'all.
Iowa. I mean,
They
really,
do.
it really is. There's a lot of Southern influence, and I would say that the majority now of people in Wisconsin are, country fans. Like it really is very different than when it was when I grew up, where it was more specifically sort of Norsky.
Yep.
Like people,
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. The country influences
A lot
really
of
come in.
a lot of Polak and German influences. Yep. Gotcha.
Yes.
Well, that is actually a very interesting sociological point. What's happened, at least to a certain extent, is rural America, wherever you are, if you're rural, you identify with your fellow ruralans, and same with urban. You can be about as urban as it gets in Houston or Dallas or Atlanta or, certainly anywhere, any city in Florida. I mean, that's urban, right? And you don't necessarily have a Southern accent even. And you're identifying more with your fellow urbanites, wherever they may be in the country, than you are regionally. And the same seems to apply with rural people. I mean, you don't have to go far. Now we're talking northeast Ohio. I mean, they literally call them, I'm talking about 10, 15 minutes from where I live. We're kind of in the farthest suburbs of Cleveland. And we're about halfway between Cleveland and Akron. So we're also kind of at the tip of the farthest suburbs of Akron. But if you go east or west, especially east, you don't have to go far at all. And we happen to be in a county called Portage. So, I mean, it is well known about the Portage County hillbillies. We're talking northeast Ohio, and you got ridge runners running around up here.
Wow.
Oh yeah. No, and it's the same. It's the same in Wisconsin too. There are big pockets. Like you still have the very northern. They talk like this, like the Norsky sort of Germanic influence, where it's like Fargo. It's kind of like that, and that's all the northern part of the state. But as soon as you get to around Green Bay, the Green Bay area, then you've got the more urban influence, and everything south of that is pretty country. It's very, very country feeling, like NASCAR and country music. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. That's just how it is. And it's very different than the state is really split that way. So my folks now sort of live in an area that is more country feeling than it is when I grew up, it was all more northern. But.
Interesting. All right. Well, this guy, he's a douchebag, so we're going to move along.
Yes, we are. To a woman who I'm kind of like, I don't know. I kind of split on how I feel about her. She worked for a place called No Limits Construction.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
So clearly
That's
they
where
have
she
limits.
Well, apparently they do. So she was their bookkeeper. She worked for them, and she took it literally, and she embezzled $93,000 for,
Wow.
Among other things, a butt lift. Because there's no limits here.
Butt lift.
No, there's no limits. Lift that butt. Now,
Yeah.
Now, by
got
butt
back.
lift, do we mean that she paid people to lift her by the butt, or does that have some other meaning?
I'm pretty sure it's the plastic surgery Kim Kardashian meaning.
Oh, yeah. She looks very surprised, like a lemur in her picture.
She does, and I'm thinking to myself, first of all, you had a butt lift and you're only 32. Like, give me a break here. She's of Stafford, Virginia. She used a company credit card also to buy a $2,000 wedding gown. Don't know if you'll be able to use that now. Hire a wedding planner and buy an all-terrain vehicle.
Oh, an ATV.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, is all that included in the $93,000?
I think so. The suspect also paid over $7,200 using the company card to have her buttocks lifted by elite plastic surgery in Miami, Florida. Other purchases include clothing, perfume, household furniture, airline tickets. And she also forged 5 checks totaling nearly $10,000.
Well, well, if you work for a place called No Limits, you definitely want to go check out Elite. I mean, come on. There's no limits.
It's
How long a period were these crimes committed over? These alleged crimes.
these alleged crimes. So these alleged crimes, what does it say here? I'm not finding the time period, but I am finding another significant detail, which was that Klein's predecessor had also been accused of embezzlement.
Wow. So maybe she walked in there and said, hey, you know what? Treat this place like an ATM. Don't worry about it. It's got no limits. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Management is not terribly sharp.
No,
I was going to say,
Financial tip.
Yeah, that and their hiring practices.
She's small fries. She's small fries compared to the last person. Someone pleaded guilty last year, stealing more than $150,000 between 2016 and 2018.
Man, clearly
2 years.
Yeah, clearly she had her own limits. She couldn't go past 93,000. Oh well. What do you do?
And that must have been like within a year, because the other person was there till 2018. So she stole 93,000 in a year. Yeah.
Is there any connection between them? Quite seriously, did one influence the other?
I don't know.
I mean, that just seems way, way more than random, doesn't it?
It does seem more than random, but what also seems more than random is that whoever runs this company, stop. Please.
Yeah, right.
Please stop being the CEO of anything.
Yeah. You deserve to lose the money if you be this dumb.
Unless you want to hire me as your bookkeeper,
there you
then feel
go.
free. Because clearly, if I just steal lower amounts, we'll be fine.
Yeah. 10 grand here, 10 grand there.
You offer to work for free.
Yeah, I'll work for free.
You don't have to pay. I'm just going to embezzle.
Yeah, I need the company card for like expenses, but other than that,
you have to pay me.
Yeah, I'll just skim off the top. Don't worry about it. You won't even miss it.
I mean, I'm not. Okay, like normally, I'm not trying to blame the victim. I kind of am. What is your problem?
Yeah.
I do not understand how you lose.
I mean, is that
150,000, 93,000.
Is it a huge construction company?
Well, they
Maybe
must make significantly more money than that.
Right.
If they weren't missing it, he didn't miss it until his credit card company called him.
I mean, if it's multi-million-dollar, company, then I suppose it's slightly more understandable. But still, don't you have checks and balances, no pun intended, in place? I mean, don't you have people checking up on your financial people because of things like this?
Yeah, you think so.
Isn't that what audits are about? Don't they do audits?
You would think so. I'm looking here because I'm just too curious.
Audits are for people with limits.
Right, and they don't have limits. I know. Let's see, No Limits Construction Incorporated.
Construction, yes, we will build a yurt or a skyscraper.
And I mean, honestly, like looking at their website, do they look like a super huge company? No, they do not. Do you know what I mean? Like they have construction projects on their website, but they're houses.
Yeah.
They're people's houses, like kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling.
Maybe they have lofty thoughts of no limits someday.
Like, yeah, because I was going to say, if they were literally constructing, full buildings, sure, I could understand that. Sure. But we're talking, like, the lead story right now is a front porch edition. I don't know, how much are you people paying for this kind of thing? Front porch edition. I don't know. Well, you know what? Maybe they're embezzling money too. I don't know what's happening. It just does not seem like they're a multi-million-dollar company. They absolutely could be, but judging by the website, I'm not seeing that. And there's no online valuation, and for large companies, there always is.
Yes.
So, very, very interesting.
Very, very interesting. What is going on in the world?
Well, she got a new butt, and they can't take that away. They did take the dress from her, by the way.
Well, take that away from her.
Yeah.
They can't take the butt away. Can't take that away from me.
The butt stays.
Yeah, it's a new Gershwin
Take what
song.
you will, but leave me the butt.
The butt stops here.
Oh God! So the night absolutely would not be complete without the Arkansas story. So, 2 Arkansas men have been arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault after police say they shot each other while taking turns wearing a bulletproof vest.
What?
Just for fun.
So they're both wearing protective vests, bulletproof vests.
Was there only one vest that they then traded? Okay, all right, Ralph. Now it's your turn.
It's your turn now. Stand still. We got the guy coming in from the theater there. He's going to shoot at you.
Police affidavit says the two men are neighbors and they were drinking on a deck. Speaking of decks, they were drinking on a deck on Sunday when Ferris told Hicks to shoot him with a .22 caliber rifle while Ferris wore the vest. The affidavit says the shot left a red mark on Ferris' chest and that he was angry because it hurt.
Well, duh.
Yes.
The affidavit says Hicks then put on the vest and Ferris, quote, unloaded the clip into his bag.
Damn, it's bullet resistant. Not like, you won't feel a thing. I mean, they still hurt. There's trauma involved, and there's shock, and 22s are a little more powerful than people give credit for. It's a fast moving bullet.
Well, they were apparently upset at each other.
Wow. Damn.
Because it hurt. Yeah. So assault charges, I guess.
I mean, would you have to press charges, or would the government do it?
No, they would go ahead and do it. I think.
But
you're not supposed to shoot each other.
Is it really a victimless crime? I kind of think it is.
I agree with you.
They were shooting each other. It was a game. And
why? I kind of think why bother? Because it's like, what, you think they're not going to do something stupid after this?
Yeah, I mean? They're buddies. They're buddies. So, buddies do stupid things together. Everything ever that went wrong in my life started with, hey, hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah. This does seem like one of those where I feel like we're wasting resources. You should let them go on their own recognizance.
Just tell them, don't be stupid. All right. And if you are stupid, don't call us.
And we're keeping the vest.
Oh, great.
That's what the cops said.
They'll just start shooting each other in the arm, know?
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, yeah. And for those of you that don't know, by the way, Joel's exactly right. Like, bullet resistant, it's the same thing as like when I walk the tiers, I have to wear, it's called a stab proof vest. It's not stab proof. It is stab resistant. So don't try, Don't,
if someone walks up on you, a Crocodile Dundee knife, that thing's going through.
It is. And it all depends on angle and placement. And no, it is not stab proof, believe me, but they call it that, I guess, to make you feel better.
Well, it's marketing.
Yeah. And a water-resistant watch is not for diving.
No, it is not.
No, it is not for diving whatsoever. I found that out the hard way. But anyhow.
Well, so I am going to take us on a world trip to Sweden.
Aha, okay.
Yeah. And I would like to read some of the text here because it's just better. Chocolate. Yes, there's no escape from the long arm of the law in Sweden.
The naked arm of the law.
Yes, not even sitting naked in a sauna. A police spokeswoman, Karina, Skagerlind, says that an off-duty police officer found himself sitting in the same sauna in Rinkeby, a Stockholm suburb, as a fugitive who dodged a jail sentence for aggravated assault.
It's sauna, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to intervene.
Sauna.
It's
yes.
sauna. All right.
Sauna. Yes. Skagerlind says after recognizing each other, the naked police officer calmly told the man that he should consider himself arrested.
Wow.
That's Sweden. It's polite.
And did they helicopter together afterwards?
I learned about that without warning when we were visiting. The first time we visited my son, it was before he moved to Finland. They were still in Denmark, but his wife is Finnish, and of course her relatives are Finnish. And I was indoctrinated into the helicopter club without any warning whatsoever.
Yes, imagine a dozen men standing in front of you, arms locked around each other's shoulders, and start helicoptering in unison. That happened to me because I.
What are you even talking about? You need to explain this.
Okay, where I live, there's a. Do you want to do it? Yeah.
No, go ahead. Joel.
Where I live, there's a huge. It's a huge Finnish American influence where I live and where I grew up, and when you are in the sauna, and that is how it's pronounced, not sauna, sauna. I was schooled on that very young. It's sauna. And they get really mad if you call it sauna, by the way. So anyhow, you're in the sauna, and it is tradition to, how do I gently put this, to take your genitalia in a pelvic thrust motion so it helicopters like a blade, like a helicopter blade. It spins around.
Spins around.
Yeah.
Wow.
And some people's choppers are bigger than others. So, you know.
Oh my gosh. I could have gone the rest of my life without knowing that.
Well, now you know it.
We thought you knew everything,
Especially being from Wisconsin, you know.
Well, you know, I don't think they do that in prison showers. So, no, I was not.
No, they just don't use the powdered soap.
Yeah, I was
that in prison showers.
Hey, that's about it.
Not go over well at all.
I knew this guy that was going. Knew this guy that was going to prison for something, you know, obviously pretty serious because he's going to prison. And one old timer told him, whatever you do when you're in there, do not use the powdered soap. And he said, well, why? He says it takes longer to pick up.
Oh. Good Lord. Yeah, it's not that type of environment in the showers. So,
typically, believe it or not, alcohol has some influence.
Oh, yes.
On helicoptering behavior.
Oh, yes.
I would believe that, actually.
Yes. It's usually of the grain variety, grain alcohol.
This I believe. So, apparently it was a very, polite arrest. They said that it was undramatic. They didn't want the man, they didn't want the man to try to flee, right? And the officer was praised, and police warned fugitives on Facebook, quote, "We are everywhere. Even if you do not see us, we are there." And I'm like, don't see you. Like they saw all of you. Like there was no
every inch.
Yeah. Oh my. I don't even know. I don't even know if I'd want to admit who I was in that situation. You know what I mean?
But you know that theory, right? It's the whole nudist colony theory that it's played out on everything from real world, nudists to such things as Naked and Afraid TV show.
Yeah.
The theory is psychologically, after a very short period of time, I mean, it's like minutes. You know, I don't know if it's 10 minutes or it's 30 minutes, whatever. It is not a long period of time, given how societally unusual it is to see naked people, in the wild, as it were. So, but the theory is that people become invisible, and their body parts essentially become invisible to other people very, very quickly. And they don't really know why, but it's a function of, one of the theories is, well, because, humans have had these bodies and for the most part, at least in warm climes, went naked for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And so that's still, even now, atavistically, how we see ourselves. So that if you see someone, once you get over the shock, in other words, you don't even really see them anymore.
Gotcha.
Oh, that makes total sense. I mean, it's like this, this idea in prison too, where everybody, I think they kind of do that. Everybody wears the same thing. Everybody wears the same outfit. There's no differentiation anymore. And it's kind of similar to that in some ways, where you're stripped down to your base identity. I mean, it's always interesting to me in culture, in everyday culture, how all of us have all these accoutrements. We have women especially. We've got jewelry and makeup and hair and shoes and pretty clothes and purses and all these other things that we think define us. And in a prison society, you don't have any of that, and you acclimate very quickly.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it does. And I've just a couple times, for some reason, my first wife, she thought it was just a riot. I mean, not funny wise, but she just thought it was so much fun to go to like a nude beach, right? So I mean, we did it a few times, and I mean, it really does seem to work that way. At first, it's like, woo, this is creepy and shocking, but I mean, it really doesn't take very long, and then you're just doing what you're doing, and no one's paying attention.
A body's a body. We all got them.
Exactly.
So just some are just different shapes and sizes. That's all. But we're all just animals at the end that were born naked. We were all born naked. That's
like on the Discovery Channel. So true. Hey, it's the top of the hour. Are we doing a break?
Yes, we are. Let's
Joel?
get out of here. Let's go to break. We come back. We're going to be talking about the article at thecriminalcode.com. You're going to want to check that out. So point your browsers over there while we're on break to thecriminalcode.com. Follow along. It's the infamous L.A. trunk murders You're not going to miss that. Coming right at you next.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, and, co-host tonight. And I will step aside and let the proper intros happen. I have a horrible voice tonight, so please bear with me. Eric?
Yes, indeed. It is, as Joel said, After Hours, the Criminal Code, and she who makes it so is...
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
All right. Well, tonight, boy, this is an amazing... Being from Los Angeles, I actually am familiar, at least with the names. I didn't really know the details, but I sure knew the L.A. trunk murders, and I knew the name Winnie Ruth Judd. I was reading her birth name, but I knew that name, and I think I remember my mother or even my grandmother talking about it, because my mother was born in 1932, so 1 year after all this was going on. All right, what are we talking about? Just to remind you of what the show is, my friends. Titillating and befuddling is this edition of After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. Just to remind you, it's True Crime Radio Wednesdays 9 to 11 Eastern with Joel Sturgis, me, Eric Olsen, and, of course, our secret weapon forensic psychologist, Dr. Clarissa Cole. And we continue our tour of classic true crime cases as Dr. Cole digs into one of the most notorious crimes of the 30s, young murderess Winnie Ruth Judd and the Los Angeles trunk murders. All right, let's talk death and travel accessories.
Oh, God.
Oh, my.
And, you know, it's interesting, too, because I did kind of, like you were saying, Eric, I knew about this case, you know, but I didn't. I knew about it and I didn't. I knew it was absolutely infamous, but I really didn't know the details. I hadn't really looked into it. But it's, you know, let's sort of like draw the scene. So for people that don't know, all right, the year is 1931. So we're right in sort of that, you know, post-Roaring 20s time period. And also post-crash, right? The market crash in 29. It was October in the Los Angeles station and the train station. Now, the Los Angeles train station is still there. It still looks quite a bit like it did back then. And a train had come in from Phoenix, Arizona, and the luggage was being loaded off by, they had a lot of different, you know, baggage handlers. Because back then, their luggage was very different than what we think about today.
Steamer trunks and crap like that.
Yeah. No like rolly bags that were easy to move back and forth. They had these big steamer trunks that had all these different compartments and all of that. They were typically quite heavy. So they had these gentlemen helping people get them off the train. One of these gents was named Arthur Anderson, and he noticed that two particular trunks were giving off kind of a strange odor when he offloaded them. And I'm assuming that would sort of ring some alarm bells, though, you know, it's interesting to me that more didn't happen at this point. So, I'll get through the next bit of this and then ask you guys about that. But he suspected contraband, so he asked the passenger about it because the passenger came to pick up this luggage that was ticketed to them. And he said, you know, I'm a little concerned, you know, that there might be some contraband in these trunks. And since they did have the right to do this, they said, I want to look in the trunk. They're locked. You know, can I have the key? And this passenger said, well, I don't have the key with me. And he said, hey, that is okay, but that means we're going to keep the trunks here until you come back with the key. Yeah, because they have the right to look at them just like the TSA does. And for those of you that don't know, what did the TSA do if they want to look in your luggage and there's a lock on it?
Rip it off.
Yep.
They don't care.
Sometimes they just, if they can't, break the lock, they just rip the zipper off. Doesn't matter.
They don't care. They need to see what's inside.
Yeah, they just break that thing.
And we're on a mission from God.
And they, I've also heard that they steal quite a bit.
I think that things have been taken. My things have been like really rearranged before, where like I get there and I'm like, I think everything's here. So it's the TSA has the right to essentially do whatever they want if they think that you're carrying something that could potentially be dangerous. And while I don't like the invasion of privacy, I do like the idea that if they think that somebody's carrying a bomb, they can stop that, right? No. So it was kind of similar back then. They knew something was wrong, so he said, "No, you got to come back with the key." And so the passenger then left the station. So here's my question to you guys: what contraband? Like what kind of? I guess, like, if something has an odor, right?
Marijuana.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
The devil's lettuce.
Like, well, not that kind of odor, as the listeners will find out. It was
meat.
Yes, it was a different type of odor, a more putrid sort of odor.
You know, even going back that far, California is absolutely paranoid about produce. And that would, so it could be vegetable matter, it could be fruit, and it could certainly be, it could certainly be meat. So perhaps that was one of the issues.
Bugs.
Or some sort of medical, some sort of chemical, toxic chemicals. I mean, there's a lot of questions, but I'm guessing this guy, if he's, had been around, he wasn't real young, the porter or whatever. What's his title? I don't want to call him something he was not.
No, he was essentially a baggage handler. Yeah.
The baggage guy. So I'm assuming he had some experience, you would seem. And so he probably had an inkling of what was going on. I mean, maybe he wasn't thinking human, but he probably knew something was dead in there.
Yeah, I feel like that's like what I was thinking. Like, and maybe he didn't have at that point the authority to sort of detain the passenger. You know, like I was thinking to myself, like, why would they just let the person leave if they thought that something was terribly amiss? But he did, for whatever reason, he didn't call authorities at that time.
Maybe that pesky Fourth Amendment kicks in.
Pesky Fourth Amendment?
Yeah, that they can't do illegal search and seizure.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I'm more on the law enforcement side, so, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is illegal or legal, because I don't know. Maybe you can clear us up. Like, if they run your plates randomly, isn't that illegal to run your plate just to run it on your car?
I believe so. Yeah, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to just run something with no reason. Yeah.
Yep. But yet they do it all the time.
I'm sure they do.
Sure, it happened to me one time. That's why I'm like, why'd you run my plate?
It's happened to me, I'm sure, multiple times. It's lots of stuff goes on that is not on the up and up, and people overextend their anytime authority is to be had. It will be abused unless there are checks and balances.
But anyhow, in this case, he smelled rotten, whatever it may be, and that would equal probable cause.
You would think so. He basically just said, return with the key, and we won't have a problem. And the person left. But this was just to clarify, this was at 7:45 in the morning, so this is early, right? But in October in Los Angeles, it still gets up to like 75, 80 degrees sometimes in October, right? Yeah. And if like historical trends are accurate, my guess is that it did get up to that. And then when you think about a trunk, steamer trunks are typically dark as well, like a black trunk.
Yeah. Being
stored in some sort of luggage compartment from Phoenix, which is an overnight train ride, and then it's sitting in a train station, right? But they don't have air conditioning. So it's 80 degrees and it's being stored in a train station. So by 4:30 p.m. that same day, this passenger had not come back. And Anderson was pretty certain at this point that something was really, really wrong. Because the trunks were really smelling bad and something was starting to ooze out of one of them.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oozing is almost always bad.
It's always a red flag to investigate.
Yes. So at this point, Anderson did call the LAPD, and the LAPD got there. As soon as they got there, and I guess another thing that prompted Anderson is that other people coming up to the desk were complaining about the stench. Yeah. Like, what is that?
So what kind of stench they talking here? Like rotten hamburger stench? What kind of stench was it?
Yeah, it was. So that's we're getting to that. So
all right.
So the LAPD arrived. They picked the locks on the luggage, and inside one black steamer trunk, they found an intact body of a woman in her early 30s, and the body was doubled over, and it just fit inside the trunk. And then in the second trunk, they found the severed head, torso with arms, and lower legs of another woman who appeared to be in her mid-20s.
Damn!
Well, that was a shocker.
Yeah, so at this point, I think that they figured that there was some sort of rotting, probably meat, or, like you were saying, Eric, produce, something biological that was rotting. It has a very distinct smell.
Pack it in ice. Do something.
They knew that something, and then when the oozing started, it's some sort of biological matter at this point, right? And you're probably thinking, oh my God, I hate to say this, knock on wood, but I hope someone's dog died. What is going on? They break in there, and I don't think anyone was prepared for that.
So they break in there, and there's two heads staring right back at them.
Essentially, there's a full body, and then one missing the upper portion of the legs. But everything else was there, but not intact. Oh. The upper portion of the legs, by the way, were put in a hat box, in case you're curious.
Oh, in a hat box. Well,
Yes.
That was contradictory.
Well, it was. That's very strange. We're going to put the legs in a hat box. There you go.
I guess they fit. So, meanwhile, while this is all happening, a vivacious 26-year-old female medical secretary was enjoying her stay with her younger brother and cavorting around Los Angeles.
And being vivacious. I love that.
Yes. So for like the next 5 days. She's seeing the sights for, the next 5 days. until I'm thinking that, it got a little hot in the kitchen, and she turned herself into the authorities on that 5th day. And kind of interestingly, she turned herself in at a morgue.
Oh, well, that's...
Did she just happen to stumble across it?
I'm not really sure how that happened.
The LA County morgue just walked in saying, I'm dying to turn myself in, so I thought I'd stop here.
Pretty much. So the culprit in this was a 26-year-old named Winnie Ruth McKinnell. That's what she was born as, Winnie Ruth McKinnell. She went by the first name Ruth, which was actually her second name. And Judd was the last name she was using at this point because she had married a man named William Judd. Now, William Judd was a doctor and a World War I veteran, and he was at least 20 years older than Winnie. She married him at age 17, by the way. And he was at least 20 years older than her, and he had a pretty bad morphine addiction, which was very common back in this time period. A lot of war veterans had what we now call PTSD, and they were numbing the pain not just from their physical injuries, but also from their emotional ones. So just like the opioid epidemic is huge now, morphine is also an opioid, was a huge epidemic. And also opium dens and stuff like that were trending not long before this time period. So this is just sort of a kind of an offshoot of that. But he was a pretty terrible addict, and they moved to Mexico together. They moved all over the place. But the marriage fell apart. I mean, it was a weird relationship from the beginning, and it fell apart not long after that. But she kept his name. So her name was Ruth Judd.
Okay.
And she had eventually moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where she worked as a nanny for a wealthy family. And it was during this time that she met a man that you can't make this stuff up, people. That was called Happy Jack Halloran.
P.I. No.
I know. I was like, what is he, a used car salesman? Happy
That's a
Jack
song.
Halloran?
Happy
That's
Jack.
a song by The Who. Happy Jack.
Yeah.
Jack wasn't tall, but he wasn't fat.
Oh my God. Yeah. So basically, she moves to Phoenix, Arizona, and at the time she's around 24 years old, and she's 24. She meets Happy Jack Halloran, who is 44, and he is a local businessman and politician. And just to sort of remind people, Phoenix at that time was not the huge metropolis that it is now.
Okay.
Phoenix is a fairly major city now. In 1930, in the 30s, it was more akin to, it was a city, but it was more like a town sort of feeling. So he was a known entity, is what I'm trying to say, around pretty much all of Phoenix. And
gotcha.
He'd been married quite a while, 20 some years, but he was pretty much known as his name is Happy Jack, for God's sake.
I love the name.
He's that guy. He's the local philanderer, basically.
Everyone liked Happy Jack.
Oh, everyone. Yeah. So he had a wandering eye, and it wasn't too long before he spotted Ruth Judd, who she wasn't bad to look at. I'm sorry. She's a pretty good looking girl. And they started an affair not long after she moved to Phoenix. So she's having this affair with Happy Jack Halloran, and I don't know if it's the affair that caused her to change jobs, but I actually wouldn't be surprised, because she met Jack Halloran while she was working for this wealthy family. He came over as a guest, their guest.
Gotcha.
And then he starts sleeping with the help. Makes things awkward. So, yeah, she changed jobs and shifted from being a childcare worker to being a medical secretary. And she met a bunch of friends at this new job, including an x-ray tech named Anne Leroy and Anne Leroy's roommate, Hedvig Samuelson. And the three women became really close friends. Judd moved in for a while, but then they started arguing and Judd moved out. And then suddenly on the evening of October 16th, 1931, Anne Leroy and Hetty Samuelson were shot to death in their apartment with a .25 caliber handgun.
Oh, wow.
Which, again, not a whole lot happened in this town. Let's put it that way. And their killer was their ex-roommate, Ruth Judd.
And do we know why or under what circumstances this happened? Why did she do such a thing?
Oh, God, there's so many theories. And I have my own theory that has nothing to do with anything else I've read. But the supposed theory was that there was this big fight over Jack Halloran.
Happy Jack? There was a fight over Happy Jack? But he's so happy.
Yes, supposedly, she was basically accusing Anne Leroy of seeing Jack as well, and was jealous over their, relations, and didn't want the competition. And you have to remember, too, that Anne Leroy was established in Phoenix, had been for a while, and she's in her early 30s. And basically, Judd had just, gotten there. So it's a very strange situation altogether. So, but that was the hypothesis at the time. It is not my hypothesis, but that was what they were saying.
Huh.
Would you care to share your hypothesis with us?
Yes, and but keep in mind I have absolutely no evidence for this whatsoever. But I do not think that was the case. When I'm looking at what I could find about Anne Leroy and Hetty Samuelson, I think I believe anyway that Anne Leroy was actually lesbian, and that Samuelson was her partner. There's lots of things that make me believe this. So do I think the fight was over Jack Halloran? No, I don't think it had anything to do with Jack Halloran. I think that Judd was most likely bisexual and moved in because she was having a relationship with the two women. And it didn't go well. There were jealousies because it was her first relationship with women. I think she was probably pretty confused, and there were some jealousies that happened there, and she killed them over those jealousies is my guess. I don't think it had anything at all to do with Jack Halloran, but I think that was what the time period expected.
Wow.
So.
Huh. Interesting.
Man.
You look at all the evidence with Annie Leroy and Hetty Samuelson. Like, they lived together in Alaska. They moved to Alaska to be away from everybody else. They were kind of split off from their own families for that reason. And they moved across the country together numerous times. You see pictures of Hetty Samuelson, one of her friends, who is clearly a woman, but she is dressed in drag. She's dressed as a man, and she has her arms around Hetty in a very romantic way. And there are several pictures like this. And when you see Anne and Hetty together, it looks like they're a couple. It does not look like they are friends.
Yes, and back then homosexuality would not be tolerated in society.
Exactly, and when you look at Anne Leroy's history too, Anne Leroy would have been an old maid at this point. She's in her 30s, but she's not married. She's not having children. Like, Hetty was still young, but Anne Leroy wasn't. That wasn't really that acceptable. So and like I said, they moved to sort of, I think, avoid some public scrutiny. So I was always thinking that they were a couple, and that Judd kind of found herself in the middle of that.
Okay. Well, that's very plausible. I mean, very well could be the case, because I'm looking at the picture right now. That's a couple right there. They're really closer than friends would be.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of their poses is, it wasn't uncommon for friends to hold hands or whatnot, but I think it was the fact that there were multiple pictures of women in drag, and they are in romantic poses. And the fact that, Anne Leroy moved Hetty and herself from Alaska to a warmer climate because Hetty had developed tuberculosis, and she doted over Hetty because of that diagnosis. And is that something a best friend would do? Sure. But is it more like something that a lover would do? Yes. So
these two are hot for each other.
Fascinating.
And, and I think that Judd was probably confused much of her life. And what the tabloids picked up was, of course, the relationship with Halloran. Everybody wanted to know about that. I don't think anybody cared about him. Yeah, I think he was just sort of a side note to history. But basically, she went over to, there's another, actually, I'll just be honest, there's another detail that makes me think that. So she went over there and she killed both of them. And supposedly she shot them while they were in bed, while they slept, right? And both mattresses were missing from the location when the cops eventually got there to check out the house. Both mattresses were gone. But the cops eventually did recover one of the mattresses, which didn't have any blood on it. In fact, it had almost no biological evidence whatsoever, because my guess is that they were both in the other bed.
Yeah. Huh.
And that mattress was never recovered.
She had help then. Come on, those mattresses, especially back then, were heavy.
No. Not the single mattresses.
No?
And they were single. They were small beds. I mean, they were They weren't like the beds we have now. I mean, they were small, single beds.
They fit 2 people in one of those beds? No, that is being close.
Yeah, I don't know that they were sleeping.
Well, I don't think they were sleeping either.
Yeah. So that's, and like I said, the drag marks and all that. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So basically, once these trunk murders came to light, obviously, the press was like, what? Freaks out. She becomes this sort of national, international sensation, infamous. They called her the blonde butcher, even though she's not really blonde. She's got brown hair, light brown hair. They called her the Tiger Woman. I don't understand that.
Wow.
But yeah, lots of very sensationalized names. And then it came out that she had that affair with Halloran. So like everything is just kind of rolling into one. And by the time they have the trial in 1932, there's basically just a feeding frenzy about everything about her, about everything about Judd, everything about Halloran and his dalliances, just every little detail surrounding the case. And tours are being given of the murder apartment by the landlord
already
for 10 cents a piece.
10 cents a piece.
And that happened actually long before the trial. That happened like right after word came out that they were killed.
Yeah.
The 2 were killed. The landlord's like, hey, come and visit.
Yeah, 10 cents a piece or 2 for 20. Come on in.
Yeah. So basically they were saying that the crime scene was absolutely compromised because tons of people walked through there. But what is obvious about it is that one, both the mattresses were missing, indicating that something terrible happened to them while they were in their beds. There was no outward sign of any sort of struggle. Again, thinking that she surprised them and shot them dead. And then the other part was that there were really deep, prominent grooves in the floor where somebody obviously dragged, corners of a steamer trunk, 2 trunks.
Wow, man. And well, why would they be so, I guess, dumb to think they'd get away with it by putting in the hot sun in a steamer trunk? Come on, some planning, people.
Well, I mean, to be honest, she almost did get away with it. When you think about it, I mean, yeah, it seems really dumb in retrospect. The only reason she got caught is because at the last minute, Anderson said, no, I really do want to look in the trunks. They would have given her the trunks and she would have walked away. There would have been no bodies, no evidence, no gun, no mattresses, and no girls. Just some really weird random grooves in the floor. That's all that would have been left.
She would have been gone to history. No one ever would know about this.
And no one would ever have known why, and I'm sure everyone would have suspected that it was a man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because men generally are thought of to do these heinous crimes, not women, not the fairer sex, especially back then.
Right, exactly. And also, the type of passion that it would take. And that's another reason that another reason that I thought that they were lovers or that there was some sort of lovers quarrel is because of the manner in which Hetty was disposed. Do I think she could have found something that would have fit her body? Possibly. Do I think there was a lot of anger and hatred there? Yes.
Well, yeah. She could she really be afford to be found out of being a lesbian? Is that something that she could have afforded? I mean, because back then the stigma would have been horrible.
Well, I don't know that she was worried about being found, because I don't know. She didn't seem to be too ashamed of anything, Judd. I don't think she would have been worried to be found out about that necessarily. I think she was trying to be in a serious relationship, most likely with Leroy. I think that is who she loved. That was who her friend was at the hospital. Hetty was kind of an inconvenient and sickly problem.
Okay.
And they had always said, too, that the arguments seemed to have occurred with Leroy. So Leroy seemed to be the obsession of Judd's affection, and Hetty was in the way.
Wow. Well, what a strange tale, and we're not quite done yet. We have to run a break. We come back, we're going to be talking more about the L.A. trunk murders. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
But what do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrin Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrin Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, and, well, tonight, Eric is the host, so...
Oh, we're kind of all three co-hosting.
We are.
Fact, Clarissa has spoken way more than either of us, so she's the host tonight.
She is the host. The host with the most. And so tonight we're talking about the infamous L.A. trunk murders and kind of getting through the meat of that. And, you know, so now we have the murderer. We have the murder scene established. We have the bodies. What's the aftermath? What happened to this gal? Was she put to death? What's going on?
Well, they catch her. Well, she turns herself in, and they go through a trial, and it was a sensational trial, absolutely sensational. She gets up on the stand and essentially blames Halloran for the entire thing, and says that her quote was, "I'm going to be hanged for something Jack Halloran is responsible for. Jack Halloran removed every bit of evidence. He is responsible for me going through this. He is guilty of anything I am guilty of."
Where's Jack during this whole thing?
I don't know, but I don't think he was there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Some people said that they did happen to see his gray Packard parked on that street, on the night in question. But knowing witness accounts the way I do I believe that? No. Not unless there was some greater, something of greater import than that. I mean, if his Packard was over there because he was visiting Judd, which I'm sure it had been, do I trust witnesses to have put him there on the exact night in question when they were not questioned about it until, 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
Good God, no.
A lot of holes in that statement.
And that is literally the only connection that they have. So given that piece of evidence is ridiculously weak, they did indict Jack Halloran, but he was never brought to trial. The judge actually dismissed the case because there was nothing against him except for Judd's exclamations. And Judd would pretty much say anything to anyone. She lied constantly. She was constantly changing her story. At first she said it was in self-defense, and she was always kind of saying it was in self-defense. And then they said that it was because she was mentally incompetent. But the jury didn't really agree with that. They found her guilty, and the judge sentenced her to hang for this.
Oh.
This is in February 1933, but then for 10 days, a different jury, essentially, was doing a bunch of legal wrangling. And instead of this death sentence that she was supposed to, by the way, death sentences happened really quickly back then. She was supposed to hang in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay? Wow. So there was no long drawn out hanging around.
No. There was no appeal process. This was just you're sentenced to hang. Bye.
See you later.
2 weeks later, she was supposed to hang, but within 10 days, the sentence was overturned for an insanity defense, and she was put in the state mental hospital.
Why do you think that happened?
I have so many speculations, and none of them are appropriate for air. I have no idea. No, I have no idea why that happened. It certainly doesn't seem like an up-and-up legal process, I'll tell you that much. A jury found her competent. A jury found her guilty.
Sure.
I have no idea how you would completely overturn a jury's verdict just because you had a meeting and say, you know what? She's not actually competent. I mean, and that's the other thing. You're still saying that she's guilty. So if you think she's not competent, why don't you just undo everything and say she wasn't competent to stand trial either? But instead of doing that, they basically said, yeah, she's guilty, but let's just put her in the hospital, which is what they did.
Maybe they didn't want a woman's blood on their hands. Maybe they were worried about the social outcry if they hung a woman.
The social outcry was basically for her head on a plate.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know that was an issue for them. But anyway, she goes to the state hospital. At the time, it was called the Arizona Asylum and then Arizona State Hospital. She escaped from the hospital 6 times.
Virgo Houdini she is.
She was a slippery, wily little wench.
From between 1933 and 1963, and the final time when she escaped, she was, just to put this in context, she was 58 years old in 1963. She escaped from Arizona State Hospital, and she made it to San Francisco, where she completely remade herself and got hired as a live-in maid for a wealthy family with a mansion overlooking San Francisco Bay. And she worked for them for 6 years.
Wow. Man, she's lucky the internet did not exist back then.
Right, and she lived there in their mansion. So she lived in a mansion. Yeah, she had to clean it, but she lived there in a mansion for 6 years. And then all of a sudden somebody, I don't know who it was, I don't know what that story is, someone recognized her, and they're like, wait a minute, you're not who you say you are. You're that murderer woman. And so they came and picked her up, took her back to the state hospital.
That murderer woman.
Yeah.
I read about you in the Dime Star novel, see?
Yep. She got returned to Arizona State Hospital at the ripe old age of 64, and at this point, just 2 years later, in 1971, she was paroled and released.
So she faced no sanctions of any kind for all of her escapes.
No. And in 1983, her parole was discharged, meaning she doesn't even have to check in with a parole officer anymore. She can go wherever she wants. So she moved to about 45 minutes away from me in Stockton, California.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Where she did die 67 years to the day that she surrendered to police in Los Angeles.
So her life, all told, wasn't that bad after the murders. Could have been a whole lot worse.
She lived more time out of captivity than she did in. Yeah. She lived a very long life, and a lot of it was on the outside. Yeah. After dismembering people and putting them in trunks.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that she was
Good
able
God,
to...
y'all.
Yeah. Well, and what I said on the website and what I would say again is that, Winnie Ruth Judd benefited greatly from the time period she was born into. Just period. I mean, I don't think that there is any woman out there. I don't care if it's Angelina Jolie. I don't think any woman out there would be granted parole after not only murdering 2 people, but then absconding from captivity 6 times. No, we don't give parole to people like that. You can get parole if you do well in custody and you're good and you mind your P's and Q's. If you literally escape 6 times and live 6 years on the outside, you don't get parole. That's not how it works. But back then, yeah, she benefited from that. She benefited from the idea that she was not really a cold-hearted murderer, that she didn't do this because of her ill intent. She did it because she was weak and she was in love with Jack Halloran, who she couldn't have.
Yes,
everybody said that she must have had help. I mean, everyone. To this day, a lot of people said that she had help. I personally don't think she did because of the timelines and the evidence. It took her 2 days, right, to get these bodies in trunks and to begin her travel overnight from Arizona to Los Angeles. If she had a man helping her, I don't think it would have taken that long. I think it would have been a much quicker process. I think it took her 2 full days to disarticulate the corpse.
Mm-hmm. Grisly stuff. Very grisly. Yeah. Ugh.
And I don't think that Jack Halloran, who was a big man, especially in comparison to her, would have had to drag the trunks as violently.
Yeah.
I think that someone her size would have. So,
well, maybe they.
And there was also stories about her getting saws, medical saws. Her brother's friend picked up some medical saws and delivered them to her during that time.
Well, that's an odd request. Hey, by the way, when you're running to the store, give me a couple medical saws. I got some cutting to do.
And that didn't come out until almost 40 years after the fact that they finally admitted that. But someone brought her medical saws. So if she had so much help from Jack Halloran, why did she need someone to do that for her? I mean, there's just way too much evidence in my mind that she did do this on her own. And I don't see the help of anyone else.
And the punishment was fairly light.
Extremely light. Extremely light. I am appalled. I think this is a complete miscarriage of justice. And the fact that they just essentially wrote off these two women and here, take a tour of their apartment. I mean, they so quickly became footnotes in history and not real people with real lives and real families.
Why do you think that is, though?
Focus.
Why do you think that is? Why did they want to get rid of that story so fast and brush under the rug?
Well, it might have been because they I think were probably a lesbian couple. But I don't think that is it. I think that when the perpetrator is female, we do a lot of vilification of the victims. We always have, even when the female isn't that relatable. When you look at Eileen Vernos, everybody talks about all of Eileen Vernos' victims as though all of them frequented prostitutes. They call them Johns. Two of her victims never went to prostitutes. One of them was literally a good Samaritan picking her up because it was raining.
She decided to kill him. Wow.
Yes. And yet we vilify them. We lump them all together as though they somehow, they were bad people. They deserved it. And I think especially pretty female perpetrators, unless they murder children, with pretty female perpetrators, I think we often sort of put them in that basket. She was a beautiful woman that couldn't have the man that she loved. Well, it doesn't matter. She didn't kill the man. She killed two other women.
I was going to say, was it because we don't want to believe that pretty things are evil?
Of course. Well, we're afraid to believe that because pretty is supposed to equal something that we want around. It's supposed to equal something wonderful. And if you start fearing pretty things, what do you trust?
True.
So, wow, what an interesting tawdry case. Do we have any evidence, any inkling of who she became? What was her behavior like after all of this? How did she behave? How did she interact with people in and out? And you're saying, she had more time out after she committed the murders than in. But do we have any accounts of her interactions with people and how any additional hints that might reflect back on past behavior and the crime itself from her later life?
I think she was personality disordered. I think there's pretty little question about that. My guess is probably borderline personality disorder, and their behavior, by the way, of the personality disorders in women, borderline personality disorder is the most closely linked with violence, including murder. So it's not exactly a stretch. I mean, statistically speaking, borderline personality is often associated with violence, especially partner violence. So when you hear of women that beat up their partners, whether they be male or female, it's often because of borderline personality disorder. And do I see that in her? Yes. Good God, yes. The ease with and psychopathy as well. I mean, the ease with which she lies is frightening. The speed with which she can remake herself completely to be whatever she thinks someone else wants is very indicative of a psychopath. The fact that she married men, got involved with men. She married one man who was much older and a physician, probably because he was established and had money. And then Jack Halloran, prominent with money. And do I think she was even necessarily straight? I don't know that she was, but I think that she got involved with them because it benefited her. I think that she did pretty much everything in her life because it benefited her. And I think she was very, very intelligent because she was able to fly under the radar for really long periods of time. And when you see her, even in much later interviews, so there are actually videotaped much later interviews with her in the Contra Costa County Jail. She is impeccably made up to look aesthetically pleasing. This is someone who has spent her entire life using her appearance to the best possible effect, and using her relationships with people to the best possible effect. For instance, her a string of attorneys that I believe she probably seduced. There's definitely evidence to that effect. I think that there wasn't anyone in her life that she wouldn't use her sexual wiles with to get what she wanted. I think that she was very used to that. I mean, you look at the picture I shared on my website where she's wearing a fur with her hair done in waves and carrying a handkerchief with lipstick to court for a murder. She's pretty transparent.
She could accessorize.
Yeah, she's pretty transparent to me. I think she's pretty psychopathic, borderline, and I don't think she would have had a chance in hell with me of getting a facility key to leave, or because that was how she escaped. By the way, she befriended people,
and they give her keys.
They gave her a key. Yeah,
come and go as you want. That's fine.
And to me, she was the epitome of an extremely manipulative, narcissistic, a very scary person that was always probably capable of violence. And thank God she couldn't have her own children. I'm just being honest. The fact that she was put in charge of children at one point is terrifying, because I don't think she really cared for anyone. She doesn't seem to have.
That is truly sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
so
the only people she had
was
attachments
born that way.
Yeah, the only people she had attachments to, she murdered. I mean,
wow.
Now, do you notice this a lot in social climbers? People that marry for money, that kind of thing, very similar personality makeups.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, that's narcissism is very common, right, in those type of people, and oftentimes the higher level, potentially a higher level of psychopathy as well. I'm not going to say always; it's usually just the narcissism, but sometimes the psychopathy is higher because you have to be able to ignore or not have any of those feelings that other people have. I mean, to marry somebody who is 89 years old and you're 23. And to routinely sleep with them and do all the other things associated with that. And it essentially doesn't bother you because it's a means to an end, assuming that you don't have any real affection for them. And to take advantage of their family, to take inheritances away from the relatives that legitimately should have rights to those, to fight them in court. I mean, you have to have a level of both narcissism and psychopathy.
So it's just a payday. It's a means to the end of the payday. So it's
it's how they live their life. It's how they get things done. I mean, rather than having a menial job, why not?
Well, that's how the late Anna Nicole Smith,
and and they see it as a job. That's instead of going to work, honing a skill. That is social manipulation is their skill, and they do work to hone it. And you can see that she had a biographer, a pretty prominent biographer. There was a book written about her, but since that book was written, most people and most, I think, good reviews of the book are like, well, she kind of seems to have had a really personal relationship with the biographer, which in my mind is kind of a no-no.
Yeah.
You're getting too close to your subject, and people say that the book was hurt for them.
Power of beauty, though, and lust. It
and I don't doubt it.
It can corrupt even the most staunch-hearted person.
Right. And this was another female. It was when she was at the very end of her life, but did she still have those social seduction skills? Oh, you betcha. And I bet she was even better at them the older she was.
Wow, sounds very monstrous to me.
No. Also very common.
Would you classify people like the Kardashians as social manipulators? Is that their job?
Yeah, to the point where I don't even think they know who they are anymore. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people that's all they do. Yeah, I mean, that is their job. That's their profession.
Lose themselves in their own, their own lies.
And it is usually a combination of narcissism and something like borderline. People, and that's the interesting thing about borderline personality disorder that people don't understand is that their sense of identity is very fluid. And I know that sounds like just a statement, but let's break that down. Their sense of identity, who they are, meaning what they think is right and wrong, for instance, what they like or don't like at their very core of their being.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of identity, everything about them is fluid, meaning
social
that it
chameleons.
Can change
gotcha.
Not social chameleons, actual chameleons. And that's what people don't quite understand. Now, a psychopath is a social chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody that they absolutely know what they like and don't like, and they probably walk out of the room and go, ugh, when they have to do or say something that they don't want, because psychopaths know who they are, and they are those people no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
A borderline personality disorder person, they have a fluid sense of identity.
How common, though, Dr. Cole, how common is that diagnosis of borderline personality disorder?
More common than one might think. It's still probably only, I don't know, maybe 5%. Mm-hmm. I'd have to look it up again of the total population, but enough that have you met one in your lifetime? Yeah, I would think so.
Have. Yeah, I have, and it was weird. Let me tell you, it was odd.
And it is. I mean, once you do understand it, it becomes. You know it. I mean, I guess even 5% is probably too high. I don't know. Like any personality disorder is probably somewhere around, I don't know, like 2%. Okay, of the population at large. It doesn't mean someone can't have traits, but to qualify for the full diagnosis, would be something like 2%. But I'm always telling people this, because other personality disorders like narcissism, narcissistic PD. Most people don't like a narcissist, right? And antisocial, that's the criminal personality disorder. Most people don't like the criminal personality disorder. And what I always tell people about borderline personality disorder is this, like especially for a man or a woman, but let's say that the borderline is a woman. And when you walk into the bar and you look around the bar in that sort of film noir scene, right? And you see that bombshell sitting at the bar, throwing her head back and laughing, and she's got a circle of people around her that just adore her. That's the borderline personality disorder.
Huh. Wow.
That one.
That one. What happens if two borderlines get together in a relationship? Does that ever happen? I mean, that just seems...
One of them dies. Yes, it does.
Oh.
One of them dies.
Oh. Well, that's not a good outcome. It's
extraordinarily volatile, and that absolutely could have been the case here. I wouldn't doubt it. Usually a borderline doesn't engage with other borderlines very well. They don't get along right from the get. There are fights. There's so much emotional lability. Lability is a fancy word for emotional ups and downs, right? And also a lot of, just to keep this real for the public, a lot of borderlines are misdiagnosed as bipolar. It is not bipolar, but it is very often diagnosed as bipolar. And so there are a lot of people that even have borderline personality disorder that truly believe they are bipolar. They don't know. They've been misdiagnosed. Like, for instance, guess what? Britney Spears is going to the hospital for a month because of, quote, polarity, I guess they said.
Bipolarity?
Do I think
my polarities are bad?
Do I think she has bipolar? No. Have I always thought she was borderline? Yes. It's very, very, very different. It is very different. I mean, but it can look the same to a casual observer, and even to an untrained clinician that isn't familiar with it, they'll diagnose bipolar. So
now are serial killers, are a lot of them fall into that category of borderline personality?
No. Serial killers? No. Killers? Yes. Serial killers? No.
Okay.
No. A serial killer is generally psychopathic, because when you think about serial killing, you're thinking about somebody that doesn't have much attachment, and they really don't have the ability to form attachment. And while I think that Ruth Judd had some of that, where she couldn't attach, her crime was more of a crime of passion, and she didn't do it again, which speaks more to something like borderline. Now, borderline is the very passionate ups and downs. That's the other thing. Like an intimate relationship with a borderline personality disordered person will feel like the highest high when you first meet them. Because like I said, they're the center of the room. They are absolutely stunning. And when they focus all that energy on you, it feels really, really good. You feel like this is the best relationship you've ever had. You're tempted to get married in 2 weeks. And guess what? They want to get married too, because they're borderline, not because they think it's
man.
serious.
No.
Yeah.
I met the people that have been with someone for 3 months. We're getting married. No, don't do that. You don't even know who that is.
Absolutely never do that. I don't. You know what? Unless you're 90, then go for it. But no.
If you're 90 and
If you meet somebody and then within 3 months you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is the best relationship I've ever had. We're gonna get married, and they think it's a good idea too.
Run.
Please slow down. At least slow down.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, like you don't have to break up with them. You don't have to run. You don't know, right? But does that maybe mean that person might be a little over-attached to you in an unhealthy way. It does. So slow down a little, because a more realistic, more adult human being would say something like, oh my God, I really, really think I'm falling in love with you too, but it's been like 90 days.
Well, what's the timeline? How long does it take, generally speaking? Talking generalities, of course, for one of those borderline personality individuals to show their true colors, who they truly are to you?
Within 6 months. Within 6 months, for sure.
So it's
it's usually much sooner than that.
It's a short honeymoon period, is what you're saying.
It's a very short honeymoon period, and that's the thing too. Is since the highs are so high, people tend to discount the lows, even though the lows are actually frequent and becoming more frequent and more volatile. They tend to discount them because the highs are so high. So if you meet somebody that makes you feel awesome, they're sparkling, everyone loves them, they're vivacious, like honestly, the sex is really good, it's all the time, she absolutely adores you, but then all of a sudden, out of the blue, she catches you putting away one of your old yearbooks, let's say, because it's in the wrong place on the shelf. And she thinks that you're looking at an old girlfriend. And she flies off the handle, threatens to move out, starts throwing your stuff out onto the lawn. It's essentially a huge fight over nothing. But then it stops almost as quickly as it starts, and then things go back to that really rosy, sunny place again. You start forgetting about that really irrational.
I wouldn't have forgot about that, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
But I'm telling you, when somebody's young and they're very kind of Twitter-pated and they really love the person, it's very common to sort of believe the best in the beginning and go, they were just having a really exceptionally bad day. I'm sure that won't happen again.
Yeah.
But then it does, and it gets worse and worse and worse and more frequent. So if you get married to someone like that in the first 3 months, you're probably only going to have had a couple of those blow-ups. So you're going to think, it's just because it's new. We don't know each other yet, like a rational human. But then it goes further and further afield. So don't put all your eggs in that basket. Maybe don't move in right away. Don't get engaged right away.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but can borderlines have fruitful, wonderful lives?
Oh, gosh, of course. Yes. It's certainly not a death knell. I mean, of course they can.
Well, I just want to give someone out there going, well, wait a minute, I'm borderline personality. No, it's not like you're the plague.
Oh, good God, no. And also, please know that personality disorders are a symptom of someone's environment growing up. They are created, not born. So someone with borderline personality disorder most often had a borderline role model. Okay, they usually had someone in their lives close to them, usually a parent, who was borderline too, and taught them that kind of up and down behavior, and they think it's normal, and so to get away from that takes a lot of retraining yourself.
Sure.
But can it be done? Oh gosh, yes. I've had absolutely lovely, amazing patients who are borderline that have made just leaps and bounds in progress, that have been so courageous. I am in awe. I think I've really truly adored some patients of mine that I've had that were borderline, and that were working very hard to undo the damage that had been done to them, and were successful in that. So please do not give up just because I'm talking about a case where maybe that didn't work out. Just commit to the therapy. Try, even when it's uncomfortable, and keep going, and recognize that your flaws are essentially not your fault when you're a kid, but they are your fault when you're older. So get a handle on them and proceed accordingly, and be open and honest with your partner. Let them know, I've got some of these issues, and maybe you can help me out in dealing with them.
True, sound advice. Because I would imagine that, like you'd said, it's not a death sentence. It's just learning what your normal is, and to work through it in a more positive way.
And learning what maybe the rest of society that don't have that personality disorder, like what their normal is, and trying to sort of figure that out. And, everything doesn't have to be life or death to be important. And just because it isn't this huge up and down doesn't mean someone doesn't care about you.
Exactly.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but it's
exactly. Well,
can it happen? Yeah.
We got to get out of here. End of another great show. And Dr. Cole, thank you so much for taking us through this wild journey of what is the LA trunk murders. And, of course, make sure you visit thecriminalcode.com, and that's your one-stop shop for all things true crime and awesomeness. And then when you're done with that, go over to America's-most-haunted.com, where you're only going to encounter amazeable. It's be awesome. You're going to love it. And until then, take care of each other, love each other. Talk to you guys tomorrow night. After Hours AM is a production of Midwest Radio Productions. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And please visit www.americas-most-haunted.com.